what's up guys? Welcome back to Life from the Wrist. Hope you guys are doing well today. Lange Söhne also released some really cool watches during the time period of Watches and Wonders, and so I'm going to go over three of the pieces that they released. I'll say it at the beginning of this video, I do not have these watches in my possession, so I can't do kind of a hands-on with these, but what I'm going to be doing is describing the watches, giving you my thoughts on them, and I'll be sure to put up a lot of pictures and videos so you can see these watches while I talk through them. I think for the most part this was iterating off of already created designs and creating some newer watches that would probably capture a very big portion of their kind of market segment. So yeah, I'll be talking through these watches and giving my thoughts on them. So let's just jump right in. The first one I wanted to talk about was the Lange Söhne triple split. This is a watch that they released in 2018. However, this year they released a different color combination, or case and dial color combination. They released a pink gold and a blue dial version of this watch. Previously they had released this in 2018 with a different color combination. I think it was in, I want to say platinum, and with like a kind of like a slate gray dial. But I could be wrong there, so correct me in the comments if you wouldn't mind. But what they did was they released this really beautiful blue dial and pink gold case. If you aren't really familiar with the triple split complication, basically there is a split second complication, which is a chronograph complication, where basically you have two chronograph hands that you're able to run independently. Then there's something called a double split, which is basically a watch where you obviously have the two hands for the chronograph where you're tracking the seconds, but then there's also a subdial where you have two hands on that subdial where you're tracking the minutes of the chronographs. And that's called a double split because you've got the seconds and the minutes. And this triple split is basically, you've got your chronograph hands, so you're tracking the seconds, you've got two minutes hands, so you're tracking the minutes, and then you have two hours hands, and you're tracking the hours for each of those two independent chronograph hands. The chronograph complication already is a very difficult thing to produce and manufacture, and Lange Söhne does it at an extremely high quality. A double split is even harder, and a triple split is just as hard. And so this is a really big feat, mechanically speaking, and you know, when you think about it from a watchmaking perspective, it's very difficult to do this. And so these are obviously going to take some time for them to manufacture. So a very rare complication from a watch manufacturer that really doesn't produce a lot of watches already. This isn't a complication you see a lot with a lot of the other watch companies that you may be familiar with. I think that kind of shows the level that Lange Söhne is operating at. Just to talk a little bit more about the complication and the movement that's actually going into this, as always, Lange Söhne creates these incredibly manufactured movements with really interesting bridges and really well finished parts of their movements. And what's incredible about their movements is the depth that you can see when you turn that watch over and you look at that case display back. And this is not an exception to that rule. There's just so much, and it almost looks like kind of like they're presenting this movement to you when you flip it over. Especially how it kind of lines up with the movement, and it's not like all just completely filled in. There's a lot of gaps and places where you can see holes within the movement. It's really incredible, and to have the opportunity to see one of these actually moving while you're running like a chronograph or something like that is even more incredible. So the thing that changed with this watch is that they changed the case metal and the dial color. I think it's an incredible combination. I love the combination of gold and blue. I think that's probably the best thing that you can do if you want to make a watch that looks absolutely beautiful. Rose gold's an interesting choice. I like how it plays with this blue, and obviously blue dials have been an absolute craze with watch collectors over the last couple years. This year was really a year of green dials. It seemed like that was a new color that people are coming out with, but this blue one really does take your breath away. So another really phenomenal watch from Lange Söhne. The watch is going to be about $165,000 US, limited to 100 pieces. So it's a limited edition, go figure. The next watch I wanted to talk about was this really interesting Lange Söhne Lange 1 that they came out with the Perpetual calendar complication in this. The Perpetual calendar complication has typically been used in other Lange Söhne watches that haven't really been in Lange 1s very much, but they've really created something quite phenomenal here with the complication. Obviously, there's a different layout for how the perpetual calendar is looking, and it really does conform nicely to the very simplistic layout of the Lange 1 watch. It doesn't add a bunch of noise to the way you read this dial, and so I think they seamlessly integrated it with their Lange 1, which is something that they could have done really, really poorly. The Lange 1 is obviously an iconic watch, and most people really desire this watch because of its simplicity and very German way of laying out the dial, and they've really integrated this perpetual calendar quite simply. Obviously, you have the date at like 10 o'clock, about 10 o'clock. Over at 9 o'clock, you have the day of the week. You can see the moon phase within that second sub dial. Then you have the leap year at 6 o'clock, and you have this arrow that points down. Around the outside of the dial, you have the month, and so you've got all the complications in this watch, very, very seamlessly integrated with this watch. It's an automatic movement that's running this watch. It's running on the L021.3. It's modified off of, I think, the original Lange 1 movement from 2015, and obviously features all of those complications that I mentioned. The watch itself, the case metals and kind of dial colors, they come in pink or white gold, and then they have a gray or pink gold dial, which I think is a fairly interesting combination for these watches. The watches themselves are not, yes, the white gold version of this watch is limited to 150 pieces and is at about, it's about $115,000 US, and then the pink gold version of this is part of their is going to be part of their kind of a Lange 1 collection, and that is about $104,000 US. The last thing I wanted to talk about was another set of Lange Söhne Lange 1s that they released. This time they came with this gold flux dials that you can see in a lot of jewelry watches. I think Van Cleef & Arpels does a lot of work with this type of finishing, but it basically changed the way that the dials look on these two watches. The two watches that they released are 37 millimeters in diameter, so extremely wearable. They come in white gold. They have this really dark blue gold flux dial that reminds you of a starry night. They released two versions of this watch. One has just a normal white gold case with no diamonds, and then one has kind of diamonds around the bezel of this watch. It's not really a bezel, but the top of the case has really beautiful set diamonds that you can see here. Obviously, when you turn it over, you have the really beautiful Lange 1 movement that's kind of staring back at you, manual wind, beautiful finishing to it. Both come on a dark blue leather strap, really beautiful watches, and I really like how the fact that their moon phase complication also adds some of that starry night feel to it. The two watches are not going to be limited editions. They were going to be part of the Lange 1 lineup. Without the diamonds, you can get this for about $45,000 US, and with the diamonds, you get this for about $56,000 US. It's not a big change, but it does add a little bit of a different element to the Lange 1 that you can possibly pick up. So those are the main watches that Lange Söhne released this year. What do I think about this? For the most part, it's kind of iterating off of some of the watches they already have and create something that perhaps a different part of the market would like. For the most part, these are really beautiful iterations. I think these are going to go quickly, especially the limited editions. And then I really like the fact that they've kind of integrated this perpetual calendar into the Lange 1 in a very seamless way that doesn't disrupt the Lange 1 kind of staple design. So I thought that was really great. My favorite's probably the triple split, just because the chronograph complication is one of my favorites, and so it really is a feat to be reckoned with, and I really love the new case and dial combination. But I'd love to hear which one of these watches you enjoyed the most, so if you wouldn't mind, let me know in the comment section below which ones you liked the most, and if you thought the Lange Söhne releases were great this year. If you haven't seen some of our other coverage of watches and wonders and the watches that have been released during this time period, we do have a playlist, so you can check that out, but you can also probably see some of the videos in the side panel, so be sure to check that out as well. If you wouldn't mind subscribing to the channel if you like these types of videos. We just create videos about watches, just about any topic we really want to. So if you like videos about watches, be sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on the bell icon so that you're notified when we upload. Also, if you wouldn't mind hitting that like button for us, it really does help us out and get these videos to more watch enthusiasts who would like these types of videos. And with that said, guys, thank you so much for watching, and until next time.